So we just finished talking about what makes a good questionnaire and a good survey. So let's take a look at a few examples, okay? And we're going to try and spot principles of surveying that are not being followed in each example. Okay, so we want to find out what's wrong with them and how we could make them better, how we can fix them. So the first one says, in a telephone survey, the surveyor immediately began asking the respondent questions without indicating that a survey was being conducted. Okay, so in this example, you need to make sure that you're providing an introduction. In this situation, they're not informing the participants of what's happening, why they're being asked these questions. And this is going to result in your participants feeling really uncomfortable. They're not going to want to answer questions. And if this is a telephone survey, you're probably going to get some people hanging up on you. Okay, they're going to hang up on you, or they're going to answer dishonestly quickly to try and get you off the phone because they don't know what you're doing. Okay, so be super careful with that. So B, at the end of an internet survey, respondents were told that they click Finish. All of the information provided will be shared with affiliated companies for marketing purposes. So the big issue with this situation is they weren't told until the end of the survey, okay, at the end of the survey. So that would be a situation where your participants, the people responding, are going to feel potentially very, oh my goodness, I provided this information, I didn't realize that it was being sent to these people. So you need to tell your participants prior to beginning the survey. Okay? It's the same kind of situation again. Okay, C. Survey participants were asked what kind of music they listened to and were provided with the following choices: rock, alternative, classic, and country. You think about that one for a second. Okay. So the principle not being followed for this one is it's not a good question. It's not designed so that everybody can answer. Okay? So you've got rock, alternative, classic, and country. So you should include a space that says other. Okay? And even if you include this space, there's so many different kinds of music that this is kind of a leading question because it's provided you with only 4 of them. So maybe someone would be more likely to select one of these because it's in front of them. Okay. Next one. Restaurant customers were asked to rate their server. The choices were excellent, fair, and poor. Okay. So to me, this is it's not a full set of ratings. Okay. So someone who's doing excellent is doing like perfect, and someone who's doing fair and poor is kind of not doing that well. Okay, so I think you need to include, so we need to include something like good or great or some sort of number scale on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being excellent and 1 being poor. Where would they lie? And that way it gives them the in-between as well. Okay. Surveyors asked, do you think safety is the most important issue when selecting at school? Okay. So I think the issue with this one is it's kind of a loaded question. Okay. Because it's already put in mind the safety issue, okay, instead of asking people what is, okay, what is the most important issue for you when selecting a school? And then you could always provide a list of answers with other. Okay. Safety could be one of them, location, programs offered. So you'd want to provide more than just indicating safety. Okay, it's kind of leading them in the direction of safety. So those were some questions, okay, so that we know what good questions look like, what bad questions look like. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at some advantages and disadvantages of delivering surveys. Now that you basically have written your question, you want to distribute your surveys to people. Okay? So you're going to potentially use one of these methods. So for a personal interview, basically what that means is you're face-to-face with the person, okay, and you're asking them questions. So one of the advantages of this, and you can think of your own, okay, as you work through this, maybe pause the video now and go through and see if you can think of some on your own. Always good to think about this first, okay. Participants can ask questions is one great thing about these. Okay. So the good thing about this is before you even get started, you can say to them, so I've explained to you how the survey works, do you have any questions before we get started? And they'll be able to ask them. Disadvantage for this one is it may lead to bias. As participants basically won't want to give an answer that might be potentially embarrassing because they are talking to somebody, okay? They may not be honest, okay? Because they feel uncomfortable giving their honest response because they are speaking with another person, okay? So as opposed to that, doing an internet survey, okay, there is a sense of anonymity. Okay, so people tend to feel anonymous on the internet. So this means that they will answer very honestly. Very honestly. People won't be able to see you. They'll think they're in a very safe environment because, I mean, there's nobody around. They're on the internet at home. So it'll allow for very honest answers. Okay. Disadvantage, you don't know who they are. Okay, so someone could say that they fall within the age bracket or they are a student, but you have really no way of telling for sure if they're online. Okay. Another downside is you don't have as much control over who is going to respond. Okay. Unless you're emailing these people individually, okay, you're not going to have as much control over that. So telephone, the biggest advantage for this one is it's convenient. And it's cheap, convenient, cheap, okay, you have one questionnaire, you read it on the phone, and you can collect your data right at home. So the problem with telephones is this one allows for easy non-response. Because if somebody doesn't want to do it, they just hang up the phone, okay? Which is unfortunate. Mail. Okay. The best thing about mail is participants can take their time, okay? So participants can get their survey and they can think about it, they can answer it whenever they have time, so you're not pressuring them to answer it right away. Okay? So that's how Statistics Canada, the Canadian government, they do a census every couple of years. Okay? So they'll mail it to you, and then you have until a certain date to get it back to them, which is pretty nice. The downside is for the person doing the survey, I mean, it takes time, okay, to wait for results, and it's costly. You have to pay for postage, you have to pay for envelopes, you have to print all the surveys, so this one's a little less cost effective than, say, doing the internet or the phone. So those are some advantages and disadvantages. Watch the next video on sampling methods. Okay, so in other words, if you're not going to call the entire population that you're surveying, you want to find a sample. Okay, you don't want to call everyone. So how are you going to find a sample? That's the next video for you.